0, 1.
Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Barracks, the podcast where service ends but the story begins. And today I've got Sam Marshall, a veteran and a mountaineer running Monkey Mountaineering. So welcome.
Good morning, Gina. Thank you.
Hiya. Yeah, I was just saying offline how I hate the introduction bit because it's like really wooden, and now we can get into the real stuff. Well, yeah, thanks for coming back on. We had signals problems last week, so
Yeah, we did.
being
Yeah.
kind to us. So let's jump straight in. So what was your childhood like, and why did you decide to pop off to the military?
Hey, wow, that's a long time ago. Childhood was just normal, you know. I grew up in a small town in the Pennines. I went to school, did normal stuff. Didn't do brilliantly at school, but I think that's boys, isn't it? Teenage boys. But then there was a recession in the 80s, and I wasn't really, I got laid off from a number of jobs, and I was on the dole, and I'm like, suddenly I had this realization that I needed to get a trade. I needed to get something that made me employable, and if I didn't, I'd probably still be living with my parents when I was 50. So I went to the Army Careers Office, thought I'd be a VM, but that didn't work out because there was no spaces for VMs. But I still joined and became an aircraft technician. So in the REME.
Yeah, so I was a signals tech, and we used to have a lot of REME avionics tech. You were you?
No, I was aircraft, but yeah, the avionics is the other trade.
Yeah, so we used to have a lot of transition of people going backwards and forwards, retrading from REME, and it's an interesting career path which a lot of people kind of don't know about because everyone thinks the army is the infantry. So what was your trade training like, and how did you get on with that?
Trade training was great. It takes a long while. It's like 18 months before they unleash you into a unit. But then when you go to a live aviation unit, they're really busy because there's not enough helicopters and everybody wants you. So you're pretty much on ops or on exercise somewhere all the time. So I thought that was really great because there's loads of variety with that, isn't there? And you get to travel. I think in my first 3 years, I'd been to Northern Ireland, I'd been to Northern Norway, and I'd done some adventure training. So I only signed on for 3 years. I was going to get a trade, and then in 3 years I was going to get out and have a normal job, be a civvy. But at the 3-year point, I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm having a good time. So I signed for another 3. And cracked on. And when it got to the 6-year point, I'm like, there was an option to go on this open engagement thing. So I could just stay for the 22 if I wanted. So yeah, I just did that because it was still good.
Yeah, and you ended up staying for what was it? Did you say 30 years in the end?
Well, just shy, 28 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from 3 years to 28 years, it's not a bad career. And yeah, people kind of underestimate it, don't they? Because I know me as a signals tech, I was the same. I hit my unit and then I was off to every operation, every mission, because not everybody needs comms as well. So
yeah.
It's a great career choice if you want to join the army and see the world. It's definitely better than, well, we would say better than being in the infantry. So that must have been incredibly interesting with helicopters and working with, was it with the Army Air Corps that you worked with?
Yeah, predominantly with the Army Air Corps, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so did you have any sort of like, what's one of the most standout sort of experiences you had while you were serving as a tech?
Doing the job on the helicopters?
Yeah.
I think probably going out to Bosnia in the early days. That was pretty busy, and we had some really interesting engineering problems with the aircraft. which allowed us to travel around, Bosnia. So, but it was super busy. What else? I think when we first went into Afghanistan, I was on a team that received the first Apache helicopters into Afghanistan. So Apaches had never deployed at that point. So there was a steep learning curve, and that kept us busy, keeping them operational. Um, yeah, and keeping, it's an airborne weapons platform, keeping that in the sky to give top cover to troops on the ground. That was a really busy job.
Yeah, and were the problems, because Bosnia in the winter was extremely cold, and
Yeah.
then obviously Afghan could be extremely sandy and hot. So were the issues you got was from the climate, really?
Um, yes and no. Not the major issues. The major issues are from the user demanding more capability from the equipment, which is, it's understandable. They've got this piece of equipment, they want to use it to good effect, which means from an engineering perspective, you can't afford to have that asset sitting on the ground. It needs to be in the air flying. So engineering wise, you've got to be on your toes, you've got to be busy, you've got to be creative to find solutions to problems to keep them things flying.
Yeah, and keep them obviously ultimately flying safely.
But yeah, yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
we had Mandy Hickson on the show, fast chat fighter pilot, and she alluded to how important the whole team is, and particularly the engineers that keep, because everyone thinks helicopter, army, RAF pilots, that's the ultimate job, but it's that whole teamwork, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
that gets the
definitely.
pilot off.
And we'd often spend quite a bit of time, you know, talking to the pilots to understand their problems, then to come up with engineering solutions, and then using the pilots. But you need them to ground run the machine, and you need them to test it in the air. So you've got to have a good working relationship with them.
Yeah, definitely. And then from that point, you progress through your career, and then eventually you decided to go to the dark side and become an officer. Uh, so how was that? How was that transition for you?
um, I, I don't really know. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't what I'd planned. By the time I got to W01, I think, oh yeah, I was ready to leave, and it's looking for jobs, but then I just saw the LE officer opportunity as another job, because officers and soldiers are different, so it's a different job. So yeah, I applied, and not knowing what the outcome might be, just like I was applying for other jobs at the same time. Um, the opportunity to commission came up, and I thought, well, maybe better the devil you know. It seemed a
Yeah,
bit easier than perhaps going out into Civvy Street and starting all over again. So yeah, I stayed on, transferred to the Army Air Corps to become a ground officer. Yeah, it was good.
yeah. Did you have any sort of good experiences while you? How many years were you served as an officer at the end of your
6 years.
career?
Yeah, 6.
6.
Yeah,
So quite quite
three
a
tours as a
while.
captain, really.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting change, but obviously, the leadership that you built up, getting to a W01, must have stood you in massive stead for being an officer and leading the troops from that area.
Yeah, I think so. I've never really thought about that. All I can say is it changes when you're an officer, and I think it's more about people. It's more about being personable. It's about talking to people, understanding what their issues are, because you can't lead people if you don't listen to them. So you've got to understand them. But I think the job of an LE officer certainly wasn't what I was expecting. Um, LE officers get given all sorts of work to do from the commanding officer because they know it'll get done.
Yeah,
Whereas, and I'm not really pilot officers in the Army Air Corps, perhaps are more focused on flying their helicopters than they are leading men at that stage in their careers. And so it comes to the LE officers to pick up the slack, organising mess dues. You've generally got 3 or 4 jobs on as an LE officer. So it's a busy job. And despite
yeah,
trying to escape the barracks and get on operations as an LE officer. I never managed to get a tour as an LE. I was pretty much away all the time as a soldier, but then as an officer, I didn't manage to get on a tour.
Yeah, you literally did get grounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because it is, and I think sometimes people, you know, don't see the softer sides of leadership. And when you progress through your leadership and your management style, you've got to always, I think, remember that it's the people that you're managing, and you've got to get the most out of your team,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Where when you're just fixing kit and you're in charge of people fixing kit, it's a different ball game, isn't it? Really, because you've got different processes and KPIs, I guess, which is an interesting one. Yeah. So you transition. So you made that transition. That was successful, and you did some bits and bobs and progressed, and then you decided to step out. So how did you find that? Did you know what you were going to do, or?
Oh, I had no idea what I was going to do, but I just knew I was ready to leave. You know, the unit, the regiment I was in was disbanding. The capability was moving to the south of England. You know, my family was steady here up in North Yorkshire. You know, my wife's had a good job, or still has a good job. My kids were at GCSE years. I didn't want to uproot them, and yeah, I didn't want to find myself commuting from the south of England every weekend. Um, yeah, I think you just grow tired of it, don't you? I'd been away a lot in the army, and I didn't want to be away anymore. But ironically, uh, the first job I got was at BAE Systems, working on the nuclear submarines in Barrow.
Yeah,
And
it's quite a distance.
ironically, I was away during the week and had to commute home at the weekends because it was too far to drive on a daily basis. So yeah, I worked in the shipyard as an ops manager
Yeah,
on the new build nuclear submarines for 12 months when I first left. Um, but like I say, it was commuting at the weekends, so it wasn't
yeah,
great. It was a good job, and the pay was good and the people were great, but it's just being away from home all the time.
yeah,
And I guess I hatched my plan to become self-employed whilst I was working there, but I didn't quite know what I was going to do. But I sort of landed on my feet with another job. I saw an application for head of operations at the Harrogate Convention Centre. There was no application form. It said you had to write an essay about why you'd be good for the job. Yeah, so I looked at that and I thought, oh no, I can't apply for that. And then I thought, wait a minute, it's just an essay. I'm sure I can do that. But I got no background in events or conventions. So I just wrote an essay likening managing the 3D battle space, which I'd been exposed to as a captain. So I wrote about the risks and how to manage it and bringing disparate teams together so that you all work together towards one goal. I wrote that essay, and I thought I'll never hear back from him, but I ended up getting the job. I got invited to interview and got the job. But whilst it was really well paid and it was a good job, I think that it wasn't what I was expecting, and the director I was working for, I wasn't what he was expecting or wanting. He said to me a number of times that you don't shout at people. I'm like, well, why should I shout at people? He goes, well, you're ex-army. I employed you because you've got an army background, and we need to get a grip of these people. And I'm like, but shouting is not the way. I'm you need to win people's respect and trust. That's how they work for you. You don't get them to work for you by shouting at them. So yeah, it didn't work out, and I thought, well, I wanted to be self-employed, so yeah, I handed my notice in and yeah, took the plunge, which is it's pretty scary, really. Not
mm,
knowing where your next paycheck's going to come from, not knowing how you're going to manage to pay your mortgage, stepping away from a secure, well-paid job. Um, yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
moving into the adventure world as well. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's a luxury that people don't perhaps, if it's the first thing that goes in a recession. People don't have spare cash. They're not going to spend on adventure. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I've been running this. I've been running Monkey Mountaineering now for just over 8 years as a limited company. It's not failed, so I must be doing something right.
yeah. Yeah, well, I see you leading groups sort of across the world. So it's obviously worked. And did you get your experience through the military? Did you do loads of mountaineering courses when you were in? Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky through service that I always had some good bosses. I was a climber before I joined. Well, I was a climber and a kayaker, but I sort of leant more towards the mountaineering, climbing and mountaineering whilst I was serving. Um, I used to see opportunities to go on expeds, and then I would go to my boss. You know, when I was a junior rank, I'd go to my boss and say, that exercise that nobody wants to go on, or this month of night shifts that no one wants to do, if I do that, can I go on this exped? And so it's give
Yeah.
and take, isn't it? And I
Yeah,
had
you worked it.
understanding
Yeah.
chain of command, so I was
Mm.
really lucky. By the time I came to leave the army, I'd got all of the mountaineering qualifications, and I'd climbed on every continent. So I had a whole sort of wealth of experience. And in my little naive brain, I'm like, well, you know, running an adventure travel company, it's just a bit of adventure training. How hard can it be? You know, it doesn't take much to organise that. It's just like, I'm sure I can do that. However, there's a whole host of, legal hoops to jump through, regulations, financial protection, and then working with agents in other countries, understanding other countries' regulations, making sure you keep, and the whole thing is to keep your clients safe and deliver fantastic, successful trips. It's not just as simple as I thought it would be. We have lots of transferable skills that you bring from the army, but there's two key ones that stand out that we don't bring, and that's advertising and marketing,
Yeah. Sales.
and budgets and accounts, because you
Yeah.
don't really get to do that when you're serving.
No.
So yeah,
No.
it's been a roller coaster. But I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of things in what you said. So it kind of is what you make it in the military, isn't it? So I was similar to you. I'd go on an
Yeah,
operation so I could then go skiing because I skied for the army ski team, and then I'd come back and then I'd have to go on. But I had like yourself, an incredible career through that, doing all the AT either side of working really relentlessly hard. And that's how you've got to. If anyone's wanting to join up, that's how if you want to do it, you've got to pursue it. You've got to make the military work for you, and not just sit there going, "This is crap."
yeah,
Because
yeah. I
because
did see that as well. The more senior I got, and as a captain, you would see the young lads like like I organised skiing or I organised rock climbing in Spain, and it's like all they've got to do is pay 50 quid and they can go on the skiing trip, or they've got to
mm,
pay 50 quid and they can go climbing near Benidorm. And it's like, what's not to like about that? But
yeah,
you struggle to get people to want to do it, and it's like, you pay hundreds for that in Civvy
mm,
Street.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and
so
they
yeah,
bite your hand off over out in
yeah,
Civvy Street for 50 quid to go to
but but I
Spain
think
climbing.
there are still a cadre of people serving. I think at every level who do see these opportunities and who do take those opportunities and who are happy to 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 pick up the slack in order to take the opportunity. So they want to go skiing, for instance, in the wintertime, and they want to ski for the army, or perhaps like you did. They're happy when their chain of command says, "Brilliant, you go skiing." But when you come back, you're going on this exercise, or you're going on this operation that no one
Yeah,
else wants to do, or you've got all these rubbish jobs to get through. And I think that's only fair. It's about give and take. And I know certainly when I was a captain, that was the approach I would take. If someone wanted to do something, I'd go, "Yeah, brilliant, get it done. What are you going to do for me in return?" And it's a give and take. I think it's a give and take thing.
yeah. And then the other point which you made very validly is we're so grown up in the military, the stuff we've seen, the stuff we've done, but we've got this safety net, haven't we? Of we can go to the dentist whenever we want, we can go get medical treatment, and then we get out, and then we've got to start managing money,
Yeah,
managing, how do I get a dentist, how do I pay bills, and then setting up a company is even more scary because then you've got to start and and as you said, you don't think about it. You don't think, well, I've got to have safeguarding, I've got to have this, I've got to have that. So yeah, it's incredible minefield. The end product is easy, and you could do that in your sleep, but all the other bits around it are the
Yeah,
learning curve, aren't they?
yeah.
So
Those are
how did you find that?
it continues to be challenging. You know, like you say, the end result, organising an Everest Base Camp trek, or taking clients to the summit of Mira Peak, Nepal's highest trekking peak. I can do that. You know, I have the leadership skills outside. I understand the environment. I've been working in it for nearly 40 years. Um, that comes second nature, and I think it's probably the same with when you growing as a soldier and you're getting promoted. The stuff that you do, it's second nature. So for me, when I was working on aircraft, you know, fixing helicopters, it was second nature. I could do that. It's all the stuff around the paperwork, the regulations you got to comply with, and the conundrums. So my constant challenge is advertising and marketing all the time. Um, yeah, how do you get people to book with you? That's always the challenge.
Yeah, and it's such a social media world, and people are like, you've got to be out there selling your brand. And I guess the way I've seen you do it is probably perfectly by putting amazing trips on LinkedIn and showing what people are doing with you. So it's working well, but I know that it's constant, isn't it? Sales is horrendous. Everyone
But
hates
it's
sales. Like,
it's it's good to get that feedback and understand that someone else thinks it's working well, but it is just a nightmare and it's a constant. You can't switch off from it. And I think that
no,
I don't post as regular as I should do. Um, if you can hear that, there's geese flying over. No. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think I don't post as regularly as I could do. Um, and I just, yeah, how do you make your posts get the exposure that they need? It's a constant minefield. It's a constant
yeah,
battle, but we
yeah.
survive and we're growing. Next year's looking like it's going to be a good year. So I've taken a booking with the Climb to Recovery team to put them on the summit of Aconcagua.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I've
Yeah.
got
Crime to
two, but
Recovery, I've been in touch with them as well, and I know they do some great things
yeah, yeah,
with
definitely.
their beneficiaries. So, yeah, that sounds amazing. I might have to join them. um, yeah. So, I was going to say, what sort of people come? So you've obviously got your veterans that will come to you because they know you're going to do a good product. And what other sort of client base do you tend to get, and what do they want from it
it
from you?
it's That's a really good question. It's a broad mix. If you look at advertising and marketing, they always tell you to make an avatar of your ideal client, and I'm like, my ideal client goes from sort of I've had 20-year-olds through to 65-year-olds, and they all want something different, but actually I think they all want something the same. They want to have an adventure, they want it to be safe, and they want to have some great memories. But I get younger people who want to learn skills. So we'll perhaps do some UK based stuff, and they'll learn some skills. They go away, have some adventures of their own, and then come back on an overseas trek or an overseas expedition to a peak. Or I'll get like maybe middle age and older. They've got a bit more time off. They've got a bit more money. Perhaps they've already got some skills, but they're not confident enough to go and do it on their own. So they'll come on the overseas treks or the expeditions. So it's not one size fits all. I've got a really broad spectrum. Probably 60% male, 40% female clients. So it's a little bit more male dominated, but I think that reflects fairly what's going on in the outdoors anyway, which I think is slightly more male heavy than female. Um, but in terms of age, yeah, it's the whole spectrum. I
Yeah.
don't work with minors, so it's all adult work. But yeah, from sort of 20 through to um, mid 60s. I've not had any 70-year-olds yet. No, I tell a lie. I've guided a couple on Sky,
Yeah,
but it's not that common. It's normally sort of. I guess the average age is probably around the 40s mark.
yeah,
But yeah, there's a whole cross spectrum.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting that. Yeah. So how do you find if you've got if you take like a I don't know a group of 6 or whatever and you've got that age range, that must be sometimes quite difficult to manage a group, or is it just the classic leadership skills that we use?
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's down to leadership. It's down to making everybody feel included. And I focus on small groups on purpose. So when I was first looking at starting up, I did a little bit of market research as you would, and lots of people said to me they'd been on expeditions with the big well-known companies, but they're always in big groups. You know, people that have summited Kili, I know there was 20 of them in the group, and
That's a
people that have
lot.
been, you'll see it when you go to Everest Base Camp, these big groups. And, you know, big groups are statistically not as successful as small groups. Big
Yeah.
groups are not
That's
sustainable.
why I've kept
Yeah,
my groups at 6
yeah,
maximum.
yeah. So with the small groups that we have, like it's normally somewhere between 3 and 8,
Yeah.
with me included in that. So you're not looking at a great number of people. And from a leadership perspective, it's everyone's an individual, and you treat them as individuals, but you include them in everything. I'm a big fan of on trips to altitude. In the morning, I will sit down and have a chat, and I'll ask everybody in public how they're feeling because I think that's really important. And if they're anxious about anything for that day, and I'll talk about the plan for the day, and I'll do that in the evening, as how the day's been, and talk about the next day, and get everybody's input because that makes everyone feel like they're part of the team. It's about inclusivity. But yeah, going back to what you said, it is just basic leadership skills done well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Treating
No,
people as individuals.
I think I would hate that. That's why, as you said, I've organised it myself with local guides and I've kept it to 6 because I want the whole team to pass. And that's another thing. If you were taking 20, yeah, your profit increases, but then the failure rate of the whole group making it is dramatically decreased, isn't it? Which
Yeah,
isn't a good experience.
yeah, no, and for me, um, well, I'd be fibbing if I said it wasn't about profit because I run a business and I've
Yeah.
got to put food on
And
the
you've got to
table and
make
pay my
profit.
mortgage. But it's not about profit, and I'm not contradicting myself there. It's about making enough money to be comfortable. It's not about. I'm not interested in becoming, the next millionaire, the next Elon Musk, or anything like that. I'm more interested in sharing my experiences of the mountains with people and making sure that anybody that comes on my trips has a great time. Has a life changing experience. They just come home and it's like, when can I book again? What's next? And I do get that. I get most of my custom comes from word of mouth, and I'm getting to the point after 8 years now where I've got repeat offenders, as it were. I don't mean offenders, but I've got clients that they just come back for more.
Yeah, and they're
Um,
golden, aren't they?
yeah,
To get
yeah,
people keep coming back. So we spoke a bit of this off air. When you in the mountains, do you find people start to um, you know, find themselves and find their mental health starts to, do you find them like mountains and getting out there mends people's mental health?
yeah. I think. I mean, it's very in vogue, isn't it, about being in the outdoors?
Mm.
And if you go to the outdoor shows and you listen to any of the big talks that they have, people that have found the outdoors, they've got better mental health, and they'll talk about it until the cows come home. I do agree that it is good for you. I think that people say, "Oh, you have to think outside the box."
Mm.
When you're out in the outdoors, there is no box. You're not constrained by walls and roofs. You know, you, you're free. The whole of the universe is there. You can think as big as you like, and I think it's a good way to help you unravel what's going on in your mind. If you're dealing with issues and stuff and such like. I know on my trips, we'll have a lot of conversation, a lot of banter, but there's times when people will walk on their own for a bit, They're in their own mind. They're just enjoying being outside and letting the mind think about whatever it needs to think about. But yeah, I think, to answer your question, I do think, yeah, there's a lot to be said for getting in the outdoors, and perhaps people don't make enough of it, or don't make enough opportunities for themselves to get into the outdoors, because people are busy, aren't they? People are busy, have busy lives, and maybe it's difficult. But everything in life, I think everything is in life that is good for you is difficult, and it needs to be reached for, and it's just through some sort of barrier. You know, if you want to get into the outdoors and you think that's difficult, you've got to step through that difficulty, and once you've done that, you probably never go back. It's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's where I would rather be every day on the mountains, even if it, than sat behind a desk, for sure.
Yeah,
And that's
definitely.
probably why, probably why we maybe both joined the military, realistically.
Even a horrible, rainy, bad weather day in the mountains is much better than a day sitting in the office.
Yeah.
That's my view anyway.
Well, I think when you get back as well, don't you? So say you've had the most horrendous day, like it's been horizontal rain, and like when I did Scotland last year, horizontal rain and whatever. When you get in and you get maybe into your tent or get home if you got the luxury or a hotel, you you feel like you've achieved something,
Yeah, yeah.
and
You
it,
you feel alive. I think
yeah,
you get you get the endorphins, don't you? You get them
mm,
them feel good endorphins that come into your system, and you feel, yeah, you might be tired and things might ache, but you actually feel good.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, yeah, and the more people that, I mean, people are, as you say, it is on vogue getting out there, and as we were talking earlier, the classic places are the places we avoid, aren't they? Like I
Yeah,
won't go anywhere near Snowdon.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I often get asked if I would climb Everest, and my initial answer isn't no. It's yes, I would. But there's no way I want to get involved with those queues that you see, from the
no,
South Col on the Hillary Step, all of those people. So I think that, it goes against everything I go in the mountains for. I think I go in the mountains, I don't know about you, Gina, but I go in the mountains to find a little bit of peace and quiet. All right, I might be with clients, but you're with people you want to be with. You're not
yeah,
in a great crowd of people. And, for me, using small groups, it's about that peace and quiet. It's about, just being in nature. I can't understand the people that go in the outdoors and they've got these headphones on. Who knows what they're
yeah,
listening to? But, take them off and listen to the sounds around you. The water guggling down the streams, the birds singing, headphones. Sorry, am I getting too old?
no, I'm totally the same. I go to stop the noise of everyday life, the roads, and as you walk further into the mountains from wherever you put your car or whatever, and you stop hearing that, and then you start hearing the birds, and as you say, in the winds
Yeah,
blowing through the trees, and
yeah,
and I think we said I prefer to be. I might be in a group and we might be chatting in, but then times you have time to yourself, or if I go, I do a lot on my own, and I don't particularly like it if there's loads of people there. I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
I'm
why
with
is
you.
there someone there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
to
mean,
come up here to be on my
like
own.
you mentioned, prime example, Snowdon. Oh, all them people. What a nightmare.
Yeah,
Far too many
yeah,
people for me.
and Snowdonia's got so many other more beautiful mountains
Agreed.
to
Yeah,
go round.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, but at least at least we've got them in one place. We can go down the mountains on our own.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but it is interesting. It's something I don't plug into the Borg when I'm out um, hiking,
No, me
and it's
neither.
dangerous. Um, so what's been your most meaningful expedition or moment for yourself personally?
Outside of running Monkey Mountaineering, so personally,
Yeah, yeah. Just if we
um,
do, yeah,
don't know really. Meaningful. I think in terms of personal development and learning. In 2004, I was on um, a tri-service expedition to attempt attempt a route on Makalu. So Makalu is the 5th highest mountain in the world. It sits just down from Everest. And then on Makalu, there's a route called the Southeast Ridge. At the time we went in 2004, it had only had one ascent by the Japanese in the 70s. We got there. We couldn't get onto the route that the Japanese used. We had to climb over a 7,000 meter mountain just to get to the same starting point. We had a lot of poor weather. We had loads of issues. You know, big mountains, logistics. We had lots of problems. And I got to just over 7,000 meters without any oxygen, but I was done. You know, that was me. But it opened my eyes in terms of how the logistics works for those type of expeditions, but also how we respond to altitude and how we deal with altitude, and how we can manage to acclimatise effectively without taking any drugs, you know, and just do it naturally. So that was, I suppose, maybe a light bulb moment. I don't know, but it was, that was a great expert.
Yeah, and I love breaking first tracks, you know, in when I'm skiing. And that must be an incredible moment because you know potentially no human at that point had ever stood, apart from, but as you say, they went a different route.
Yeah,
So
there's not been many
that's got to
people
be
there. Yeah, it's good.
humbling as well.
But closer to home, I think I love guiding on the Isle of Skye in the Black Cooling, in the sort of like from May through to July. The Black Cooling is the closest we've got to the Alps in the UK. It's always challenging. It's right next to the sea, so you can never guarantee the weather. So I love guiding up there. And then further back, led an exped to northern Greenland to celebrate and commemorate 50 years of army mountaineering. So we went to a place around about 500 miles north of the Arctic Circle in northern Greenland, where no one had really ever been. Someone passed through there in 1920 something, and the maps we had been drawn. It had been surveyed from a ship, so no one had been on the land really. We made 29 first ascents. We were there for a month.
Wow.
No
That's
aeroplanes flew
amazing.
over. You know, we couldn't get the World Service on the radio. To get a sat phone signal, we had to walk 2 hours from our base camp. So it was really remote. It was wild. We saw some enormous muskoxes. I don't know if you ever heard of a muskox. It's like an Arctic buffalo. They're massive. You don't want to get too close to them. They look really scary. What we didn't see, and thankfully we didn't, was any polar bears. But it was just a superb trip. You know, there's no guidebooks. We had maps that weren't accurate. We'd just look at a mountain and go, let's go and climb that. Yeah, and it was just brilliant. That was a really, I guess, formative experience as a mountaineer because it gives you the confidence to trust your own skills.
Yeah. No, that's incredible to I mean, and that's again what the military sometimes offers, isn't it? Incredible experiences, and to be like the first humans potentially. Don't know about cavemen, but the first humans that have gone up that mountain is just incredible in this world that's so overpopulated, isn't it?
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we after that exped, we sent a report to the Greenland's managed by Denmark, so we sent a report to the Danish Institute of Cartography or whatever mapping, with our suggested names for some of these mountains that hadn't been named, and some names for some of the glaciers that we'd explored. So maybe in the fullness of time, when they update the maps, if they ever do, our names will be on the maps. So who knows?
Wow. When was that? 2004.
No, that was 2007.
Well, you need to jog their memory and get yourself a glacier named after you.
I know.
That's
I
incredible.
don't think there's any need for them to update their maps that often though, because 500 miles north of the Arctic Circle, no one ever goes there. You know,
Not yet. No.
not yet. No, that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe with
Yeah.
global warming, maybe it will get populated. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And you like first people to in this what do we call ourselves in this this whatever era to have climbed it.
Maybe. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. So I've got to ask, why Monkey Mountaineering? What's the reason behind the name?
I was going somewhere with my wife. We were in the car, and unusually I was in the passenger seat. I normally do most of the driving, but she was driving, and I said, if I'm going to start this company, I need to have a name. And I thought, I want the name to be a little bit different. I want it to have a little bit of humour to it, but I want it to also do what it says on the tin, as it were. And she just came up with, "Oh, what about Monkey Mountaineering?" And I dismissed it there and then. I'm like, "No, I don't like that." We drove down the road and we sat quietly for a while. And then maybe half an hour later, I'm like, "What did you say?" She's like, "Monkey Mountaineering." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I quite like that. That's pretty good." And yeah. So there wasn't a lot of thought came into it.
Yeah. Well, it's catchy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
People
different.
will remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's kind of the next evolution for your company and yourself? You got
Um.
more plans?
Yeah, I'm currently trying to grow it. I'm currently trying to add more itineraries to our website. Um, but I think ultimately, how long do I want to be working for? I still enjoy it, so whilst I'm enjoying it, I'm going to keep on doing it. But ultimately, I think probably I will sell it or gift the company to my daughter or my son, perhaps, if they want it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'll just fall into obscurity. I don't know. But at the moment, I'm trying to grow it. I'm putting new itineraries on the website. I'm trying to improve the visibility of the website, doing that crazy, mysterious SEO thing.
Mm.
Yeah, and just keeping going. Yeah.
No, I'm sure at some point I'm going to be tempted and I'll join you on something, because apparently I'm supposed to be stopping after this year, but I'm not.
Stopping? Why?
It's not happening.
Yeah, come and join us.
But
Come and join
it's
us.
just people are like, when are you going to stop and slow down? I'm like,
Got
maybe
a
when
great.
I hit my grave.
I've got a great trip that would suit you in April. So in April we're going back to climb Mira Peak. It's the
Yeah,
highest trekking peak in Nepal. It's absolutely brilliant. We've got 100% success rate on it, and I think the part of the reason why we've got that high success rate is because I don't use the same trekking route as the norm as most people going into Mira. So I use a
yeah.
more remote, more up and down trekking route. It's and it means that you
Bit of
acclimatise better.
acclimatization.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So for part of it, you hardly see anybody because no one else uses that route. And I think it's a really nice way to walk in. But yeah, so that'd be great for you. It's not technical, Gina. You just need to be fit and have the right mindset.
Yeah.
And you'd be welcome to
So,
join us. April,
yeah.
April next year.
Okay, I'll just write it down.
Yeah, do write it down. I'll send you a link.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think that is the hardest mountain that you've sort of physically and perhaps mentally climbed in your climbing career?
Um,
Learning career.
Two very different things there, I think. So I think physically was that attempt on the southeast ridge of Macaloo back in 2004. You know, that was just tough in every respect. It was tough. Big days, lots of altitude, bad weather to deal with, uh, into the unknown in a certain extent, not knowing exactly where the route's going, finding your way. So that was pretty tough. Mentally, I don't know, maybe running this business. I think stepping away from now I'm thinking about it, maybe making the decision to step away from paid employment to become self-employed.
Yeah.
That was a tough mountain to, just to make the decision. I think I remember back to sort of, it's like you're standing on the edge of a cliff and that cliff is secure and you've got your payments coming into the bank and you're secure. but you can see down below a little patch of green, and it looks great. But to get to that patch of green, you've got to leap off the cliff, and on the way down, there's all sorts of things that are trying to get you. So yeah, I think that mentally, taking that leap from paid employment to self-employment was probably perhaps one of the biggest things I've dealt with, the biggest mountain.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. So, what's the one piece of kit that you take on every, walk, hike, expedition?
Well, not every walk, but certainly on every trip where I'm away for more than a night, I have a tiny little inflatable pillow, which I won't be without. I don't know why. You can roll your jacket up as much as you like and make a pillow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my one luxury. My tiny little inflatable pillow. It goes everywhere with me. It actually lives
So you don't get
in the
bad neck.
stuff sack with my sleeping bag. So if I'm getting my sleeping bag out, that little inflatable pillow's in there as well. Yeah, that goes everywhere with me.
Yeah, I love that. A bit of luxury. Yeah, I'm still on the roll whatever I can up, but then you wake up with your neck like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe you
get
should
yourself a
take
little
that top
inflatable
tip.
pillow. Sea to
Yeah.
Summit sell them. They're really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, top tip from. I think I've probably got one somewhere. You know when you buy stuff and you never use it.
Oh,
I'll
get
look
using
over
it.
there because I don't know where my kit is. Um, so, I asked this of all of the people. Who was someone, either your superhero when you were growing up as a child, or someone who's made a massive difference in your life. A role model. I know that you probably had a few, but have you got one particular?
I don't know really. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I guess in terms of mountaineering, you'd probably have to go back to the pioneers of rock climbing in the UK. Some of the names like Joe Brown, perhaps, or go on. Now my mind's gone blank. Now you've asked me that. But
You've got the classic one, Hillary, haven't you?
yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that the people that pioneered what we do today, because we go and climb mountains these days, and you can go into a shop on the high street and you can buy super technical kit that's lightweight, and that totally protects you from the elements. But think back to the pioneers. They had tweed jackets, heavy wool jumpers, big, thick leather, heavy boots. Nothing was light, even their ropes. We buy a modern rope,
Yeah.
it might be 60 meters, and it'll weigh a couple of kilograms. Whereas they had a hemp thing that, I don't know, weighs a ton. So all that stuff they had to
And then
carry.
soaks up
Yeah,
the
and
water,
all
doesn't
of
it?
that kit that they had. So I think in terms of heroes, the pioneers of mountaineering, just to stand where they've stood and think, crikey, when this was first climbed, someone did this in nailed boots with a tweed jacket on. And I'm all wrapped up in my modern lightweight kit, and I'm still cold, and it still found it hard work. So yeah, the pioneers.
Yeah, that's a perfect one for you. Yeah, and it does make you think. And we know when you see those, when you go into the pub after you've had a long day on the mountain, and you see those old boots and the old
Yeah,
rope, and you think, crikey, and I'm moaning in me technical fleece and
yeah,
super lightweight boot. I've just bought a new pair of B3s, and I couldn't believe from my old B3s how lighter they are.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's just in a matter of 10 years or something. Yeah, I love that. So what do you think we should have talked about that we haven't?
I don't know really. All the people that don't book with me, we should talk about them.
Yeah, get booking with Monkey Mountaineering. Uh, life-changing trips.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can find you online. We can find you on LinkedIn. Are you on
Yeah,
Facebook as well?
yeah. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, all on at Monkey Mountaineering. And then obviously on the internet we've got a website, www.monkeymountaineering.com. Yeah, give us a like and a follow.
Yeah, definitely, and just even if you're just going to watch what Sam's up to, and then see how it goes till you get inspired by one of his trips and hopefully book on and have a life-changing, adventure. Definitely. So the podcast is called Beyond the Barracks. So what does Beyond the Barracks mean to you?
To me, I suppose it means what have you done since you've left the army or the forces? What have you done? How did perhaps your experiences in the forces shape what you do now? What's beyond? What came next? I guess that's what it means to me.
Yeah.
Or that's what I take from it, from the name.
Yeah, and I think everybody who I've had the pleasure, to have on has been incredible. And there's, even though they may have done 30 odd years in the military, what they've done beyond and after service is always, renders me speechless sometimes. The incredible lives that our community has, really. And yeah, yourself obviously included in that, with some of the peaks that you've done, and how you now, getting people interested in getting out there, and it helps in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of veterans out there that are doing really great things, and I think that sadly the media seem to portray us all as broken and not capable. But actually, I think the majority of us are not broken. We're all good, and we do get out there and use the skills that we learnt in the military to our advantage, really.
Yeah, definitely. We've got so many transferable skills. It's unreal. So, yeah. So I've had a really fascinating chat. Obviously, because I'm interested in the same as you, but you're, miles ahead of me with your skill set, and it's just great to see all your posts on the internet and where your next adventures are going. And yeah, I'm sure I'll join you soon, without a doubt. So yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you, Gina, and I hope we will see you out on the hill or on one of our trips soon.
Definitely. Well, take care.
Cheers. Bye bye.